That is really gorgeous. Beautiful fall colors that just pop in the camera. Crystal clear, pristine mountain stream, tumbling just a little bit to cause some motion and the feel of motion, at least in the photograph. And this light, we've got a forest fire right now in the vicinity. The light is diffused and the color is warm because the sun's shining through the smoke. Really kind of decreases the dynamic range of the subject so that it fits what the camera can actually record, and gives you detail in the shadows, detail in the highlights, even with sunlight. This is a perfect situation for this kind of photograph. Fall colors require that you get your camera out and go and do when the colors are there. You've only got maybe a 1 or a 2 week period of time when you can actually go shoot them. So get your camera out when the fall colors are there and get out and make it happen on the image so that you don't regret it if you miss it. Beautiful time. Really nice opportunity to photograph here at this stream of water. Compositionally, there's a lot of things happening here. First of all, the colors are just vivid, so include as much of that as you can. The sky is not so exciting. We don't include the sky. The water in front, very exciting to let it move through the frame, adds visually to the photograph, so include more of the water, less of the sky. But get those beautiful fall colors in the background. We're also getting a really muted light, which actually, I've got my shadow in the photograph, but you can't even tell it's there because of the muted light, because it's in the stream and kind of modeled with the rocks. If we had bright sunlight, that shadow would be in the photograph and in the way. But as it is, it works out just fine. I like to shoot this kind of a scene both horizontal and vertical. I have an extreme wide angle lens on, a 10 to 22 millimeter zoom lens, and I've got it zoomed all the way out to 10 millimeters so that I can include as much of the foreground as possible, because that's where the water is, and that's one of the visual strengths of this image, is that moving water in the foreground complemented so nicely with the fall colors in the background. So include all of that in the photograph. Now, of course, as always, you want to slow your shutter speed down to allow the water to move just a little bit in the frame while the shutter's open. I've got it stopped down to f/22, which does two things for me. It lengthens that shutter speed and does what I want it to there, but it also gives me a depth of field that it allows the water to be in focus in the near foreground and the very edge of the picture in the back also to be in focus because of that extended depth of field that you have with a small aperture and a wide angle lens. Oh, those are really nice photographs. I'm excited to see these on the computer a little bit later. One of the main aspects of this photograph, of course, is the beautiful fall colors, but also this moving water in the foreground. I love to photograph moving water as it flows over rocks. There's more. On downstream, the water continues to go over a little rocky ledge almost, and continues to tumble, and I want to include more of that in the composition. So I'm going to move downstream and form up another photograph. Oh, very nice photographs. I'm excited about these, some of the better ones I've taken for a while. Nice foreground. Most of the photograph is actually taken up with this moving water. Fall colors in the back accentuate the beautiful colors that are reflected in this moving water. three things really that can help you make a better photograph just about any time. Number one, if you have in your photograph a subject that is moving, such as this water or a wild animal or a person, give it room. Give it room to move. So there's plenty of room for this water to move through the photograph. Give room on the facial side, like it's composed right now, because it adds balance to the photograph. Number two, if you have a nice wide-angle scenic, put something in the foreground. I've got a bush, a currant bush right here in the foreground now, doing two things for me. It breaks the composition a little bit, gives it a stopping point in one corner and lets you follow the water through. The second thing it does is I've got the sun directly at my back, casting a shadow. The shadow's on that bush, and I can crop a little bit so that you can't even tell it's my shadow in the photograph. So the bush is hiding my shadow as well. The third thing, never be afraid to break the rules. Rules were made, especially compositional rules, to be broken. It can add tension to a photograph instead of relaxation, but it can make the photograph a dynamic picture as well. Beautiful photographs. We're right next to the highway, as you can tell by the cars passing by. Just goes to show you, you don't have to go traipsing into the wilderness somewhere to get beautiful photographs. This stream of water is right here, very accessible to us. This is a beautiful picture. The water's flattened out a little bit, comprises most of the photograph, so it's a little calmer looking. I've got a rock in the foreground, these beautiful flowers, white flowers on the water, also accentuating the foreground, and then of course the fall colors in the back. F22, now if you remember our video on aperture, F22, a very tiny opening on the lens, that means that I have tremendous depth of field. Depth of field carries all the way from the rock in the foreground to the horizon in the background. Everything is sharp and crisp in this photograph. It also slows your shutter speed down and allows the water to move through it. Now, in this particular case, don't be afraid to try your polarizing filter. You can dial that in and take some of the reflection off the water. Now that does two things. Saturates the color for one, but taking the reflection off the water also de-emphasizes the water a little bit because you don't see quite as much movement. So if you like the movement, dial the polarizing filter out. If you like the saturated colors and de-emphasizing the water a little bit, dial that polarizing filter in just a little bit, and it makes two different photographs. There we go.